Welcome to Decades of Horror, the classic era.
It was kind of fun in a necrophiliac sort of way.
This is episode 150, recorded April 23rd, 2023.
Gruesome Magazine.
My name is Jeff Mohr, and on this podcast we cover the good, the bad, and maybe even the ugly films released since the beginning of time through 1969. In each episode, we'll discuss the monsters, spirits, psychos, and villains that have haunted movie-going audiences since the dawn of film history.
Some stank. I like that.
We also, Decades of Horror and Gruesome Magazine, partner with Play Now Media on several other channels. The Classic Era is currently on the Classic Sci-Fi Movie Channel, the Classic Horror Movie Channel, the Wicked Horror TV Channel, the Free Horror Movie Channel, and the Free Classic Horror Channel. So check those out. Our podcasts are up there, and they, if you want to look for stuff that you wouldn't normally see someplace else, it's a great place to check out films. With me this week are my incredible co-hosts. First up is Chad Hunt, co-host on Decades of Horror, the 1970s and the 1980s, and, well, all of them, I guess. A film producer and director with Wreak Havoc Productions, and a comic book artist and writer, Chad. How are you? How are you?
What's wrong with my eyes? What did you do to my eyes? That's how I'm doing.
I want to see your hands and your feet, too. Anyway, also with us is Daphne, the awesome, stupendous, and likable as hell. Daphne, how are you?
Hi, I'm really good. I'm
actually Finian R. D. Mardovson. Wow,
yes,
I just
Finian R. de Mardovson,
yes.
Son of Mardoff. I'm so excited to talk with you guys about this movie. It's one of my favorites.
I am too. Also with us is, Whitney Kayatsa, who'd been with us for over 100 episodes, left the podcast. Good vibes all around. She's got some great opportunities, so she's off to work on them. But we have a new member. Doc, I don't know how to introduce you.
You just did.
Is there a doctor in the house?
Oh man, hello. Oh, this is fun. What a great movie to come back to.
Yay.
Whatever the heck I'm doing
For our 150th episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
150 of them, Jeff.
Sesquicentennial.
Good starting place, Doc.
I'm not saying that.
Nice.
I'll stumble over that word.
All right, y'all. This is a spoiler podcast, so we talk about everything. So if you haven't seen Rosemary's Baby, shame on you, and go watch it first or read the book. Both are classics.
Read.
As we go forward, well, if you weren't so busy with that necrophile stuff, you'd have time to read. That's all I'd say.
I can do both at the same time.
You probably can. On this
They're not going to
podcast,
say anything.
we start with some basic details of the film we're covering, followed by each of our first impressions. We'll do some taglines, and then take off down the road with some visual aids, and hopefully talking about the movie. I promise not to do 5 minutes on Steve Brody like I did on the last 80s episode. Visual aids,
Which people are still listening to that for that. How long that
I
episode was.
know they're still trying to figure out who the hell is Steve Brody. So our movie this episode is Rosemary's Baby, released in 1968. And I'm going to switch these because this was too good. I have too many different cool versions of this, so I'm just going to switch while I'm talking.
Bring it on.
By Roman Polanski, from a novel by Ira Levin, and written for the screen by Roman Polanski. The cast includes Mia Farrow, John Cassavetes, Ruth Gordon, Sidney Blackmer, Maurice Evans, Ralph Bellamy, Elisha Cook Jr., Charles Grodin, and Patsy Kelly.
Who are
Production
they?
company is William Castle Production, distributed by
Yeah.
Paramount. And who would have thought this was a William Castle production? I never would have thought.
Not I, said the cat.
It was filmed in New York City, and I believe most of the exteriors were in New York City, and the interiors were at Paramount Studios in Hollywood. The filming dates, August 21st to December 20th, 1967. It was released on June 12th, 1968. This is odd. This is one of those, I don't understand why the movie business, they obviously don't know how to count money, but the budget was 2.3 million according to IMDb, or 3.2 million according to Wikipedia. And the box office was 15 million according to IMDb, but it did list those as theater rentals, so it wasn't really box office take. 33.4 million on Wikipedia and 42.9 million on my favorite Ultimate Movie Rankings. So it made money. And I'm guessing, 33 to 42 based off of 15 million theater rentals. 42 sounds pretty good compared to that, I think. AKA, in almost every language, it's just a translation of Rosemary's Baby, except in Spain, it was released as La Semilla del Diablo, the seed of the devil.
Cut to the chase.
Makes sense, right? Yeah. And the synopsis. A young couple trying for a baby moves into an aging ornate apartment building on Central Park West, where they find themselves surrounded by peculiar neighbors.
I'll say.
Well, that leaves a lot to be said. Yes,
A young couple
surrounded.
trying for a baby finds
I don't
an apartment instead.
It sounds like an episode of Three's
They
Company.
go on
with
to
that,
raise it as their very own.
surrounded by strange neighbors. So anyway, let's get into first impressions here. This is my pick. No, it's the group's pick.
Was it?
So who should go first? I didn't even think about it.
Let the newcomer go first.
Let the new guy go first. Okay, I don't want to put too much pressure on him.
We're using. By the way, we're using anagrams tonight.
So Doc, when
this
did you
is
first
Rotten Cod.
see this?
Rotten
And,
Cotton? No.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
Okay, so I'd seen this before, long time ago once, forgotten most of it except, key points, 2 key points of the movie. Really probably the iconic elements. I won't get into those now, but watched it again this past weekend, and it holds up extraordinarily well. It's an old Hollywood paced movie. It's not zip, zip, zap, zap. It's directed with, intention and style and panache. And you really feel it. You feel the characters, you get to know everybody, and it's gripping. And I was actually just blown away about how good this movie actually is. I mean, it is a classic. It's one of the classic horror films, but it's not one that I personally go to often, if ever. But I think I need to reconsider that. This was well worth the accolades it got, and we got an Academy Award for Ruth Gordon for supporting actress. Well deserved there as well. Although I think the best actress should have been in the running as well. But that's a bigger discussion. So in the end, you debate if you want to. Well, we have to get to the ending, and you got to debate. Should they or shouldn't they have? And I really like how the ending of this movie goes. It kind of foreshadows what the entire decade of the 70s would do with their endings. They'd either be ambiguous or they would just be downright, anticlimactic or downtrodden. And this foreshadowed that quite a bit. This and Planet of the Apes together, right? And both in 1968. From then on, it was like, hey, guess what sells? Whoops.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. I agree with, I think, everything you said. Miss Finian. Is that a woman's name?
Yes, ma'am.
Gender neutral. Finian, when did you first see this?
I think I probably saw this maybe in the late 80s, early 90s for the first time. And this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't know if it's number one, but
Oh, wow.
it's close. It's close to that. And I don't really like to use the word transformative very much because it's pretty hoity-toity. But this was a really personal, awesome movie to me that it means a lot to me. So my first impressions were, I was a tween or a teenager during the 80s, during the Satanic Panic. And I was raised in kind of a conservative religious background. So there was lots of creepiness and propaganda around Satanism and Satan worships and danger to children and all this stuff. So I was really freaked out by the idea of anything having to do with any scary movies having to do with Satan or anything. So I kind of avoided this movie for a while. And then after I had some time from it and, kind of thought things for my own for a while, I went and watched it. I think probably because I knew Ruth Gordon was in it, who I love. And when I saw this movie, I fell in love with it. It was amazing seeing a woman in this. She's like Mia Farrow's in, I think, almost every scene in this movie, if not every scene, almost every scene. She's portrayed really well, and it made me feel really strong to watch it and see her kind of face this threat. And I don't know, it really kind of changed how for once I had like someone that I could relate to a little bit with, and saw her being really strong when I was growing up in a time where it was like mostly you just saw women as victims or scary to go outside or whatever. So that was really big deal to me. So that was my first impression of it, and I've loved it ever since.
No, that's great. I'm going to be interested to hear what else you have to say here. Chad, did you ever think we were going to make 150? This is what is it, 23rd? It's like 6 years and 3 months since our first episode released.
Well, there were some days where I was like, Jeff, you ought to, and I didn't think we'd make it. But
I keep telling you to tell me about it.
But here we are. I just swallow it. I swallow the rage and just keep plodding along.
I couldn't do it. We couldn't do it without you, Chad. Seriously.
No, well, that's debatable. But because you have Finian,
Stop.
You always
Son
have
of
Finian.
Mardoff.
Son of Mardoff. D Mardoff.
Mardoff the Wise.
But it feels good to be here. This is, I love talking movies with you guys, and it's always fun. It's I look forward to it. It's especially when there's movies that we have never covered that I've never seen, and we just discover them for the first time. And that's any of the DOHs. It's one of the main reasons I do it is discovering things I've never seen before and talking about them. So 150 episodes, and I can't have a better co-host than you and Finian, and now Doc. It was all fun and games. Now the boss is here, and we got to. Yes,
look busy.
I love this movie very much. But no, I'm just kidding.
So, what are your first impressions of Rosemary's Baby?
I've watched this one for as long as I've been able to watch it. It's literally one that I never hit fast forward on. I never,
there's no songs or dancing.
True. But this movie is, like Doc said, it really holds up on watching it now, and it's scary. It's scary, and you feel scared for the main character because. And I love movies like this where the main character, if she's against everyone, he or she, is against everyone, and that, you know, you don't. That makes it sort of you can't figure out what's going on yourself as a viewer, and that's how this movie is. Since the first time I watched it, I had no idea where this thing was going. Is she insane? Is or something else going on? And then you start to learn as she learns. And that's one of the things I love about this movie too, is you're figuring things out as she is. And one of the best endings, I think, I love doomsday endings and I love downbeat endings. And John Carpenter's The Thing and a lot of John Carpenter movies. But this one has a very creepy ending that you go, no, you know, at the end. And because you don't want to see her do what she did. And so it's this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And I know it's surrounded in some controversy and stuff like that, and which I know we'll end up talking about that as we go. But yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Despite
Great.
William Castle.
What? 5 words.
So I love this movie too. And frankly, this is, if you look up top movies of all time, there's probably 75-80% chance it's in the first 5 movies listed. Top horror movies, I should say. You know, right along with like Frankenstein and Psycho and some of the other older classics that we've done. But it's interesting because it really is a story of, it really hits me because it hits me in that place, like the same thing with Invasion of the Body Snatchers is you don't know who to trust. You don't know, like what if I woke up and you weren't you, kind of a thing, or what if you weren't who I thought you were, and she doesn't know who to go for help, and every time she keeps learning things and finding out, no, they're part of it too. So that creeps me out. She's not in control, no matter what she does. She's fighting, but they're the ones that have the control. She is unbelievable. I love her. Love Ruth Gordon. I'm not a huge John Cassavetes fan, but he is perfect for this, I think. And Sidney Blackmer, geez, there's just so many people in here. We'll talk about them. I got a couple of favorites cut out of here, but and this is legendary for following the book really closely. So we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, I love the reason why.
Yeah, I do too. Sometimes. Anyway, we'll take a look at some posters. Now there's this one I'm doing full screen because I just think it's so iconic.
Yes.
It's in a sort of a landscape, but that, according to Bob Evans, the
restaurateur.
Yeah, the producer for Paramount, Robert Evans, maybe I should say, that nobody could figure out how to market it. Paramount, you know, Doc was talking about this, and hopefully get into this a little more, couldn't decide how to market it. And I can't remember if he said he did or somebody else did, but they said just pray for Rosemary's Baby. That was it. And so that it's just so good.
Yeah, that's been ripped off so many times now.
People
have tried to copy it.
So this is the this is the standard poster. So that stuff is much smaller. So
it's just so simple and
it is
lovely. I mean, just the green, you know, and the black and the white. It's just, I don't know.
The desolation of just the baby's carriage.
Yep.
There
all by itself with the
Yep. Using black for negative space is awesome.
Yeah.
And then we have a couple of Polish posters.
Oh my!
Wait, what?
Well,
Nah.
Wow.
This can't be
we
real.
have his head covered with the thing, so we're not going to give it away. I think might be the idea behind it. But, and that first word with a D is it basically translates to Rosemary's Baby or Rosemary's Kid or something.
Huh.
Definitely not her thighs.
They're darker. I think they're a little darker than us.
Interesting.
And then another Polish poster.
Oh wow, I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Has nothing to do. Well, I mean,
Yeah, I like it, but it has nothing to do with Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, that could be like an embryo or an egg or something. I don't know. I'm making
Okay.
stuff up
Does that
now.
mean
And
the
then
snake is?
I don't know.
Well, the snake is
The serpent. The serpent.
Satan is symbolized by the serpent a lot. So
We're drawing symbolism that isn't.
Maybe.
It would make a good
And-
book cover.
Japanese.
Ah.
I kind of like this
Mhm.
white. It seems Japanese, doesn't it? To put her in that pale.
Yeah, because
I
there's
like
a little
it.
more ivory look to her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to stop here because I forgot to do taglines. And
dang it.
I don't want to do the next poster without doing taglines first. So, it is now time for Taglines with Chad.
Only one? Oh man, this is a treat. Only one go at it. Okay. Your taglines for Rosemary's Baby is "It's not what you're expecting." That's the first one.
That's
Get
a
it?
nice play on a
Expecting.
lot of plays
Get
on
it?
word.
Get it?
She was expecting. But it wasn't.
Collective law.
Second one is conceived in terror, born in fear, which it didn't look like she was in too much terror under the conceiving part.
Mm,
I don't know.
I thought
All
she
right.
looked pretty terrored.
Maybe. Third one, pray for Rosemary's Baby. Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Okay, here's a tagline that's one of those that just give away plot points of the movie. Could a loving husband be an agent for Satan?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. And not a very good one.
All that. Yeah, that sucks anyway. Whatever possessed Rosemary. Another one that kind of makes you just got that one poster of the carriage and her face. You don't know what the movie's about necessarily, but it's interesting. But these taglines are just giving it all away. This isn't a dream. That's a tagline.
It's really happening.
Okay. The bizarre occult world of devilology, which I'm sure they just made up. Black magic and witchcraft. If you believe, no explanation is necessary. If you don't believe, no explanation is possible. I want to see where this tagline appears.
I'll show you as soon as you're done.
It had to be a laser disc because that's taking up a lot of room there or something. Okay, a little ass tagline. Thank the Lord. Eerie, spine-tingling suspense to scare the yell out of you.
There's our castle. That makes me think of William Castle.
Yeah.
All right.
Your chair will be equipped with baby scream, baby screamo.
Baby screamo.
And that's been Taglines with Chad. All right. So, and now the poster everyone wants to see.
Oh wow!
Ooh,
Look at that.
upside down cross.
Yep, it's all there, isn't it?
In the book. I don't know where it was. It's hard to see here, but it's one of those ones that there's folds in it. So it probably came with some DVD or, and they didn't want to pay for the original poster art. Huh?
Look at those blurbs. A classic, a shocker, beyond belief by UPS. Superb suspense, Time Magazine. It's not UPS, it's UPI.
It's great.
It's great by Cosmopolitan.
Or Donald Trump. Either way you want.
Yeah.
From
Make Rosemary great again.
All right. What? And then the last two. I kind of like that top one.
Yeah,
It's Spanish.
La Semilla del
They
Diablo.
actually went different. The bottom one's just
Yeah,
said,
that's nice.
"Add whatever possessed Rosemary." I was going to put for mature audiences.
That looks like a newspaper ad right there.
Yeah, it is.
At the
It
bottom,
is.
It is.
yeah.
Okay.
From Lafayette
Um,
Square.
I for the taglines, I was going to put for mature audiences, children not admitted unless accompanied by parents. Bargain early matinee times. But I didn't. See, I'm nice. I'm nice, Chad.
Okay. Remember those times I said I'm just gonna just glitch ahead.
Yeah. So just to kind of step into this, I guess these are some of the integral people in this. The top picture is Ira Levin, William Castle, and Roman Polanski, and the bottom picture is Polanski, and the man on the right is the director of photography, the William Fraker. And then you can see Mia Farrow standing behind him. You know, I don't know if they're setting up a shot or watching another shot, but anyway, I think all of these people, William Fraker was obviously a key part, and so Doc, why was this so close to the book?
Oh, well, Roman Polanski wrote the screenplay, and he was the first time he ever adapted a book, and wasn't aware that you could elaborate, and basically stuck strictly to the book. So it's almost to the letter. I think the only changes are, like swapping out a scene or two, or changing some cast, and shortening the film, because I think there was a huge 3-hour cut, and they had to trim it, and
wow.
They went to plays that get mentioned later. So it was you could thank Roman Polanski and his inexperience at the time of writing screenplays, but although it was a great screenplay.
Well, and so that's I'm trying to think where to put this, but yeah, in fact, Ira Levin said he used big chunks of dialogue, and it's like I was reading something about it earlier today, and they were quoting passages from the book, and it was exact dialogue as close as I could remember from having just watched the movie in a bunch of scenes. So
I think that's the pacing too. I think because it feels more like a book pacing than it does a movie pacing, especially nowadays. But I think that accounts for the pacing.
Well, and I
did not know
Fraker.
that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, but the other side of that is that Polanski was extremely particular about how lines were said and what happened and what you did. So he was very specific about what the actors did and what they wear. He even tried to get the same color clothes if the color of the clothes was described. He even called Ira Levin. Remember, there's that scene where Guy, John Cassavetes, comes running in and says, hey, I got that shirt that was in the New Yorker.
Yeah. He
called up Ira Levin and asked him what issue of the New Yorker was that in.
Authentic.
He's like, I made it up. But there's a lot of stuff that's not made up, because what he figured out where he wanted the birth, and then he saved stuff while he was writing it, and then went back in time and found, well, hey, the Pope visited right about when there would have been conception. I can make that the conception day. So he found all these things to kind of time with real circumstances. Anyway, the reason I wanted to bring that up now is William Fraker, the cinematographer. He was kind of the same way. He'd always worked in these studio pictures, and never the people he worked for didn't give him any leeway. And Polanski expected him to work out the shots and all that stuff, and gave him some leeway to do some stuff. So anyway, he had a great time too. So Polanski, what's that?
And he did an amazing job.
He did. So Polanski, is a great director. I only put a few of his movies up here. The top two, Repulsion and The Tenet, are along with Rosemary's Baby, are considered his. What do they people will group them together as the Apartment Trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in between those two, he did The Fearless Vampire Killers and Chinatown.
Chinatown's such an awesome movie.
It is. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But The Tenet, let's see, Repulsion was made in Europe. Chinatown, I don't know. Fearless Vampire Killers, I think was too. But Rosemary's Baby and Chinatown were made in the U.S. But after that, he went to Europe. So I don't know how you guys want to talk about this, but this, I don't think you can talk about Polanski without bringing up that idea of the art versus the artist. Because around that time, he was accused of raping and drugging a 13-year-old girl, and it's too big of a black hole to dig into to go into the details. But although he's never served any time for that, they had a plea deal where he was going to plead guilty and was going to get, I think, a year's probation with time served, because he'd been in jail for like 40 days or something. But then they found out that the judge had decided to make an example of those damn Hollywood people and was going to sentence him to like 40 years, like the maximum for the charge. And so he left the country and has never been able to come back. In the meantime, somewhere along the line, several other women have accused him of rape. I don't know that those cases ever went anywhere, but so I for a long time didn't want to do this movie. I'll admit that, because I really didn't want to put any money in his pocket. There's also the dilemma of all these other people that worked on the movie. A lot of Hollywood people back him. He still seems to be able to make movies and get top people in them. So anyway, so that's where I'm at. He's a great director.
I agree. He is a great director. He's made some very memorable and great movies. And it is a dilemma, and it's always at the back of your mind watching his movies, and it's tough, because I in no way, shape, or form condone what he did, or if we were to do that, we'd never watch another movie, because we
Right.
you hear some of the things that go on behind the scenes in Hollywood and stuff like that now. But it's a tough thing. I know there's some people that would prefer not to ever watch another movie that he makes, or any of his movies that he has made. And I understand that completely. I completely understand that. And there's other people who look at it, at the art or the movies, they can totally separate the two and watch the movies without having those feelings. It's a hard. It's a crossroads. It's a fork in the road. Which way do you want? Which way can you go? And a lot of people feel like this taints his career and their view of him and everything, which I totally get. But like we said, it's hard to figure out how to separate the two sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore all the other accomplishments in this movie, from production to acting to cinematography to editing, everything, music even, just because of him.
Oh, yeah.
And so for me personally, that's what I go with. It's like, I can't ignore all these other people that did this movie. There's more. It takes a village. You've heard that before, but the director, unfortunately, is the one that's at the spotlight of it. and it is, and he's not alone. There are other directors that are in the same boat, famous ones and others less famous, but maybe have famous properties, and it gets very awkward to cover their films as well. Yeah, it's not the kind of situation you want to be in with, but I choose to do it from a historical perspective and concentrate on the people that have the other elements of it. Even though the direction, we got to talk about it, but we don't have to talk about him and his deeds one way or the other.
I I hadn't thought really about all the other amazing folks that put work into it, because that they really are exceptional. Everything about this movie is exceptional. And so it is good to think about that. And one good thing that I've learned from working on the pod, from talking with you guys about movies, is looking at things historically. And that has changed how I look at movies. But I definitely fall on the side where I can't ignore. I have to look at it also a little bit with the contemporary eye, not necessarily as a judgment, but that it points out how things were in that time. Like, we could pick it, I mean, this whole movie is about men controlling women's bodies, or whatever. And I think it's legitimate to comment on those things, but you do also have to look at it historically. And but I think talking about it and not ignoring that, how it's been tainted by what Polanski was accused of. And I don't ever want to censor anything, but I think it is legitimate to talk about it, or at least acknowledge it, and think about how we might take that into our view of something, just to maybe, not everything requires that you go deeper into it, but, maybe it does play in somehow, and how someone might view something, especially because it's like the art, there's the viewer, it's the movie, it's the artists involved. It is all part of experiencing a movie. Kind of what I was saying in the beginning about how this movie is really personal for me. That's what made it really hard to watch this movie again. Or I still haven't seen the rest of the Apartment trilogy, because I just couldn't do it, even though I really want to. I really wanted to. Chinatown, I thought, was amazing and left me very disturbed and shaky. And before I knew who Polanski was, just because it was such a good movie and such a evil ending and stuff, and I just really felt the power of Clancy's direction in that. But because it was so personal for me, it was really hard for me to kind of separate all the ways that it affected me from the movie itself. And so I had to kind of figure out how to watch it again and be able to do that. And so for me, that was, challenging, and I appreciated it. I feel like it makes me kind of go deeper when I watch stuff sometimes and think about things more. And maybe not everybody is willing to engage in it that way, in movies that way. And that's totally cool. I don't want to engage in all the movies I watch either. But I still really appreciate talking about it. And I think it's a good thing to talk about, because not just personally how a movie makes you feel, but you can't deny that it does become part of our culture, and people that make these movies become powerful, and they have, some control over how things are. And so they get away with things that maybe other people wouldn't get away with, just because they make great art. And I think it's legitimate to question that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't even have to be the ones making the great art. The ones that are in charge of the people making the great arts, if you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't blame anybody that does not want to approach these movies because of the, because of what Polanski has done. So, but at the same time,
now I
such
feel
a dilemma.
Well, but it's funny, because after me kind of going through that and kind of really looking at it, now I feel like I can watch Repulsion and The Tenant, because I'm already kind of thinking about those things as part of it, and it hasn't really kept me from appreciating really the amazing work that Polanski does in this movie, and that I'm sure that he does in Repulsion and The Tenant. I actually feel more strongly about how good of a movie this is. And it would have just been easy to just not watch them, which, like I said, if some people can't, that's totally cool. But it actually ended up helping me. And I just appreciate that there's the discussion at least about it.
Yeah, it's like you don't ever know what any form of art, any form of entertainment, any form of, you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors. And this one just happened to be or advertised. This one just happened to be found out and put out there. That's not giving him an excuse for what he did. Absolutely not. But how, I'm just saying we're ignorant in a lot of ways about what goes on in that thing. And it is a dilemma. It is a dilemma. So I feel like if it's someone's choice to not watch it, I'm totally behind that. And if somebody chooses to watch it, knowing the facts and everything, I can be behind them. I can understand that too. And I don't mean that to sound like I condone crime or what he did. You know what I mean? I don't, because if I found it out about somebody else, that would affect how I watch their movies too. But like I said, if we knew everything that went on behind the scenes, behind closed doors, we'd probably never watch another movie or TV show ever again.
Probably true.
Well, it's. I mean, I can't help but have it in my mind as I'm watching this.
Yeah.
A person like Mia Farrow who looks so young. But at the same time, her account of making the movie was he was, a complete gentleman, and there was never anything untoward between them. So I guess I have to take that for what it is too. So anyway,
I
can't think too hard about it.
Yeah. You'll go down a deep, dark, twisty tunnel.
I have a real problem with people in authority or people that are in a position that are looked up to taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
And with Polanski, the Tenant gets a little tougher because he's the star as well. So then he's on the screen. So I could, that one's that's one I haven't gone to that one. I have not seen the Tenant because I just don't want to see him. And that's the same for Fearless Vampire Killers. Although I have seen that one, I saw that long before I knew what all this about it. I saw that long time ago. But I mean, Rosemary's Baby and Chinatown are like classic Hollywood films, and you study them.
What's the piano?
The Pianist, or
The Pianist? Yes, I was going to say the piano player, but I knew that wasn't right.
Yeah. But I mean, there are some movies that even the movie itself you can't watch because the whole movie has issues. But if you do watch them, you watch them because of not because of what they're saying, but because of how they were made and the time they were made, the impact, the historic importance of them. And if you don't, you also never learn. You can't ignore it.
Right. If I didn't watch movies that were misogynist, if I didn't want to watch any misogynist movies, I wouldn't love this.
She wouldn't be on this podcast.
But
what are you doing there?
There was, right? So you look at it at the time, and you do that. But
you'd never be able to watch a Charlie Chan or Fu Manchu movie. You wouldn't be able to, there's all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Which we cover all that on Classic.
Right.
We cover a lot of that. We see a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, they're not quite as direct and personal as this one is because it's just a person, this is a face. That's a more of a generalized thing, but it still has the same impact socially. So
exactly. Yay, horror.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that. Let's talk about Ira
Now
Levin.
for something completely different.
So I wish I could tell you when I found out about Ira Levin, but I feel like I've known about him forever. Kiss Before Dying, the movie I watched when I was a kid. It was made in the 50s. And he wrote the book when he was like 22. And it's just tighter than crap. And it's got a huge, have any of you seen that movie?
No.
No, I haven't seen that one. I've seen the rest. Maybe.
You should watch it. You should watch it. And then let's see. I got these in the wrong order. I guess The Stepford Wives is after this, like 72 or 74 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And then The Boys from Brazil, which we covered on here. Nobody liked it but me. But
we covered it on 70s.
I want to read the
on 70s.
I want to read the book. I would like to
Yeah.
read the book.
I would too, I think, because there's a lot of holes in that. And then Sliver was a book he wrote in the early 90s. And then the movie starred Sharon Stone, William Baldwin, and Tom Berenger. It was about a high rise and some shenanigans going on there.
Yeah,
but he wrote plays. So he wrote the play No Time for Sergeants. That became a movie that starred Andy Griffith.
That became what? Or influenced what?
Basically Andy and Mayberry. Or I don't know. And then what else did he wrote? He wrote one called Critics' Choice that starred a play that the movie starred Bob Hope and Lucille Ball.
Ooh, there's a cast.
And then there was one, I want to check this one out. God, what was the name of it? What was the name of it? Shoot. I'll look while I'm talking. But it was a TV movie that starred Bing Crosby. Dr. Cook's Garden. And it's supposed to be pretty good. It's like a weird garden story, and it stars Bing Crosby. It's a TV movie. But anyway, Death Trap is a movie most people know about. It was a long-running play before it was made a movie.
Yeah, Death Trap I've heard of. Boys from Brazil.
He hasn't written very many novels. Yeah, he hasn't written very many novels, but he's I was reading essay by Stephen King, and he was saying that his books are very visual and are like movie scripts to begin with. And also the plots are so tight that it's hard that it builds this structure that if you take anything out of it, it falls apart. And so it makes it hard for the bigwigs to come in and go, yeah, you didn't write that. We didn't like that part, and just take stuff out. So that was his argument. He claimed.
I really like. Oh, sorry.
He claimed A Kiss Before Dying was one of the tightest plots he'd ever seen. And then Ira Levin has also said that he thought Rosemary's Baby, the movie, was probably the closest to the original book of any movie he'd ever seen. Yep. So, I'm sorry, Finian, what were you going to say?
I really liked Death Trap. I remember just being like really amazed with Christopher Reeve and just really wondering what the heck is going on. I really enjoyed that movie.
Michael Caine, Diane Cannon.
Caine, yeah.
That was controversial at the time too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we'll do Stepford Wives sometime in the 70s, but we haven't done it yet. So this was a great marriage, I think of. It's one of those ones where, I think Robert Evans, he told William Castle he would back him because Castle had the rights to the book as long as he didn't direct it.
Yep. And Castle mortgaged his house to get the rights because he thought this would be his breakthrough. This would legitimize him. And so he was banking on this. And he unfortunately had failed liver after the movie and never was able to capitalize on the success of this movie.
Oh.
Can I read you guys a quote that his daughter? It's in this awesome movie. This is an awesome book. This is No Dream. picture
Oh,
book.
nice.
Cool.
It's very cool.
I
But
like
it said-
pictures.
Yeah, there's lots of pictures. So his daughter Terry says all he ever wanted to do was A films because he's living in Hollywood and he's thought that's the way to be accepted. Little did he know his B films are revered and loved by so many. Rosemary's Baby was a great film. It had the horror, but it didn't have the William Castle innocence that the other films did. And I think that innocence was something to be proud of.
Yeah.
So I thought that was nice from his daughter.
I
Yeah.
like that.
It was when I first found out William Castle made that connection that he was involved. It blew my mind because this movie's nothing like any of his other films, and this was a straightforward mainstream movie, you know. And but I think I told Doc before the show started it would have been a different movie had he directed it, you know. So,
But it would have been his best movie. If you haven't seen Spine Tingler, the William Castle story, which is a documentary about him, I would recommend it. It's really gets into all that, and there's a whole portion of it dedicated to Rosemary's Baby and this whole what happened.
Cool. Spine Tingler. Cool.
With an exclamation point.
Well, another thing on the disc. So to talk about all the other people in the movie here before we get into the actors, the music was done by Christoph Komeda, and I don't know anything about him, but people went crazy about him. He died in 1969.
Oh no!
But there was a 70-minute thing about him on the Blu-ray, but the sound wouldn't play for some reason. I have to try it in a different player, but I was looking forward to hearing that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm not very familiar with him either, but I think isn't he like a really respected jazz music? Isn't jazz kind of what he does, or did I get that wrong? He did amazing with the music.
That's what I thought. He was a jazz musician and had done this, and I don't know if just looking at his credits real quick, I don't know if he's got like 50 credits as composer.
Yeah. He worked with Polanski on Fearless Vampire Killers before.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah. I believe he was an actor in it too. Because he picked like key people. Polanski picked key people around him to help make the movie.
Yeah.
So.
He also was a composer for Cul-de-sac, another Polanski movie.
After this, right?
Earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
it. And then you get into stuff that's and then it's William Fraker. The film editing was Sam Osteen, who had a reputation, and he brought in a guy named Bob Wyman because he had other stuff to do and didn't have time to do the whole thing. And so this was like the chance for this guy to stretch his wings. The production design, Roger Silbert, and I believe it was his wife Anthea that did the costume design.
Costumes, yeah.
So it's just amazing. I think guy named Joel Schiller did art direction, and set decorating was George Nelson. All that stuff just makes it brilliant. Everything in there. So I just want to throw those names out because as we look at some of these pictures, you'll see some of this stuff in the background. But so Mia Farrow, you gotta bring up Mia Farrow. These are what I would consider before pictures.
No, nice.
Well,
that one at the bottom is the one that gets me out of the movie. That's my moment.
Yeah,
that creeps me out the most.
Well, and then right after,
so creepy.
The conception, she gets her hair cut.
From where?
Vidal says it.
I think that was to make her look even more emaciated, and by cutting her hair off that short, make her look more like her. That's what I felt anyway when I watched it.
It made her look thinner and definitely more fragile, pixie.
So, and
I believe this is a wig that she's wearing. I think that's what I read.
Oh, okay.
Because maybe her hair was already short for Peyton Place.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm just
I don't know.
Guessing, but
good question.
I think maybe later they had Vidal Sassoon. I'm not sure, but I think I remember that was this was a wig, and I feel like I remember she had pixie haircut earlier. But
Yeah, and at the
It was-
time, I'm sorry.
It did make her look. It did make her look. It did highlight her facial features and make her bones stand out and stuff like that for sure.
Mm. That and the circles under eyes that they used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also sort of where she becomes more, I want subservient or more controlled by them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up until then, like right now, she's
Mhm.
she's still herself. She wanted that apartment. They
Mhm.
haven't really met Roman and Minnie yet, and and then once she gets her hair cut, then we get into this whole thing where she gives her the. I think she already gave her the necklace, or maybe it was after that. But the necklace with the what was that
Stanky
called
root.
again? Devil's spit or something like that.
Well, they call it tannis root.
Yeah.
Well, they called it tannis root, but it was in one of the books she was reading. They called it
Right.
Yeah.
Devil's
Devil's
Mhm.
lettuce. Yeah.
Uh,
Devil's lettuce.
and these are the after
Sounds wrong.
pictures we talked about are looking more emaciated.
Especially that center one. Look at that.
Yeah.
All pale.
That and the lighting they used, like on the first one, just made her look like
Uh-huh.
a walking skeleton. Yeah.
Like a
So harsh.
cadaver, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Jeff, when you said that you felt like the haircut, did you feel like you felt like it kind of symbolized them trying to take her over? Because I feel like she stayed pretty independent through most of it. I think even with the haircut, because Guy
Well, I
hated
mean,
that
they-
haircut.
Well, I think there's a moment between when she gets pregnant and then has the party. I
Mhm.
think there's a lull in that.
There
where
is, yeah.
She gets more fragile then, and then with the
Mhm.
party that she has, she starts to gain that strength back. I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As soon as her other
Mhm.
friends came, and she felt
Yeah,
like
they
she
should-
was more normal.
They
in
make her
that.
they make her switch doctors, and they make
Mhm.
her drink this drinks and eat this food that Minnie's given her, and she's in terrible
Yeah.
pain. And oh my God, I wish I had counted how many times that they told her, "Oh, it's only natural. That's just
Mhm.
natural." It'll,
Yeah.
you know.
But she had already stopped drinking a little bit that stuff, and she
Well, she did.
decided
You're
to
right.
have
You're
she
right.
decided to
You're
have
right.
the party, and had just decided that they were going to have the party. So,
Yep.
Yeah, and then she totally breaks out then and is gonna.
mhm,
It says, "I'm going to go
Yeah.
to Dr. Hill. I don't care what you
Right.
say."
mhm.
And then presto, it quits hurting.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
she
that was
doesn't
weird.
do it.
Yeah.
And then it takes a while before things happen with Hutch. And
right.
anyway,
Yeah, that I felt like it was kind of weird how once she felt better, was it once she felt better that she like put the necklace on and she started drinking the stuff that Minnie made again,
Yeah.
and
As soon as
she kind of went
stopped
back to
hurting.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
once it stopped hurting.
oh, they were
Yeah.
telling the truth, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. They're definitely messing with her. That's for
But I think
sure.
she was brilliant. I've
Yeah.
got some other pictures I know later on, but these are she plays so many different
Mhm.
emotions and aspects, and she looks so different a lot of the
Mhm.
time. So
I love her in this movie also because it's easy to underestimate her
Yes.
or see her as fragile, and she isn't at all.
Mhm.
You're right. You're right.
I
I'm
think
taking
I
back
think
what I
she I think she's devoted like to Guy, and she's like living in this time where she does stuff, but I think people see that in her, maybe even just her as a person. I don't know, but it's because she's so waif-like and stuff. I think it's easy to project that onto her, the fragility onto her. But
I
Yeah.
think so too. I think you're right there. She's
Well,
I feel like she was strong from the very beginning.
mhm,
All through that. But I don't want to say she was trying to be a people pleaser, but she
Mhm.
was trying to have her place in her marriage that she thought she should have, and
Exactly.
and have a life the way she thought it should be.
Mhm.
So she thought she should act a certain way, but then she saw things were getting out of control, and that marriage was no longer what she expected it to be. She had to kind of take charge of things and take care of things herself. because she knew Guy was not, she even said early on, she goes, well, Guy's an actor and he's sort of actors can be self-centered. So she was aware that he was like that, but she was still trying to make that work and and everything.
Yeah. And I think you can see the balance, the balance of what she's doing when her and Guy are having that dinner and Minnie knocks on the door. And it focuses on her, not Guy and Minnie. And she's like, "Please don't come in. Please don't come in later." And she doesn't. And you can see where her turmoil and who to and what you're talking about there.
So let me ask you: did it seem to you like the whole movie was focused on her, or that at some point it shifted more?
For me, it was focused on her the entire time.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, because there's key elements that happen that tell you what's happening, but they're all audio in the background, like doorbell rings and stuff like that. Especially whenever Guy leaves the apartment. Listen, because you'll hear something, and it's telling. So,
yeah, I definitely think it was her perspective. And she was the center of the story. And that's something that I think is Polanski was so good at doing was Frakes talks about this a little bit in some of his interviews about, he brings up this one scene where Polanski has him film a certain direction or a certain way. And it really is to get the audience involved and like part of Rosemary's vision and kind of to identify with Rosemary in a way that you don't really even notice, but you do get involved with. And so I feel like you were just there with Rosemary and you wanted to protect her, you wanted to be with her, or whatever.
That's very true, because every time that doorbell would ring, I would go, can these people just screw off already? And leave her alone. So he put you right in there with her, and you felt that as well, that God, will these people back off?
And that supports. I was gonna say that supports her panic when she thinks they're witches and nobody's going to believe her, because you're with her and you only see what she sees. You don't know anybody else's input. You only know what she's reading and what she's coming to the conclusion. So it puts you at this unease, and you don't know if she's a reliable narrator at this point. And when she goes to Hill, finally, it kind of comes to a head, that feeling, and you really don't get any outside input until then, until Hill does what he dastardly does. Charles Grodin.
Well, I don't think Hill knew what was going on. He just thought she was delirious or whatever. And
that's that part that gets me is when you're so frantic to find somebody that will listen to you and help you. It's hard to not sound crazy.
I like what you said about how it reminded you of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, because I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's exactly right. I mean, nobody, she didn't know if it was her, if it was them, if she, when she did think, she knew what was going on. She knew no one would listen. She knew no one would listen to her. That's crazy.
I love it when she finds out when the doctor, what the funny name, Bellamy, right? Ralph Bellamy, when he has the same smell as she has, right? And she realizes that he's in it because of the smell. And she's like, I gotta go. My husband's in the car. I gotta go tell him something.
While we were talking, you mentioned Fraker, right? The cinematographer.
Fraker, Fraker. Sorry if I said.
And I knew I heard his name before, but his credit is crazy. Besides the same year that he did Rosemary's Baby, he did Bullet.
Cool.
The DP for Bullet. Paint Your Wagon. Not one of my favorites, but okay. Gator.
Paint Your
Wagon's
great.
The Killer Inside Me. The Killer Inside Me, which is a based on another author I like, Jim Thompson. Exorcist 2,
Oh, wow.
Looking for Mr. Goodbar.
There you go.
They can't all be
And
winners.
over the course of this time, War Games.
War Games.
He was nominated
Oh.
6 times for Academy Awards. So
Wow.
this guy was no
Mm-mm.
Knew what he's doing. That's for sure.
shake. So, speaking of guy,
John Cassavetes.
What a jerk.
yeah,
This is the jerkiest jerk of all jerks. Oh my God.
I've
That's
seen
the
him.
evil.
He was.
The character, not the actor. So just
Yeah.
for sure. Although Roman Polanski might say otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, they had some clashes, right?
Yep. But he's basically
But, yeah.
coming off the Dirty Dozen, Jeff.
Yeah, yeah.
Victor
But he
Franco. Oh my
also,
gosh.
I mean, his background is independent film and ad-libbing and all kinds of other crap. And Polanski's telling him, wear these shoes, these pants, say this line, stand right here, do not stray from the script. Anyway.
Yeah, I
Wasn't
think
he in the Incubus as well?
maybe.
The Incubus.
That sounds right. I've seen him mostly
Yes, he was in
in
Incubus
TV in
1981.
the 50s and 60s, and he's got this look in his eyes. It's just
Yes.
a little craze.
He's
It's-
trouble.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
the best is Dirty Dozen is the best. I love him in Dirty Dozen. I'm going to just stick
Yeah,
with that
he
one.
is good and Dirty doesn't. Yeah, he has
Franco?
charisma,
Franco,
but he's
yeah.
scary. It's a scary
yeah.
charisma that he has. Yeah,
Well,
he
he
does.
has
He's done a few
sad
movies
ending.
with. He was did a few movies with Peter Falk, and he was in a Columbo.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
He was in The Fury as well.
Oh yeah.
Ah,
Yes.
Isn't he? Is he the one that explodes? No, that's a female. I can't remember who explodes.
Oh, of course, it's been so long since I've seen
Wow. Okay. Memory.
it. I have I have no memory anymore.
Right.
I already forgot what Finian's real name is.
just call me Finian. You call me Finn.
Son
if you
of
want.
Bardoff. Yeah. That's the best part. Yeah. So what did you say?
He is in the Fury, but I don't know about whose head blows up. I can't remember that.
I can't. I'm trying to remember.
Where do you? I'm not. Oh yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, it's who else is in that? Kirk Douglas and it's Andrew
Amy Irving.
Stevens.
Andrew Stevens, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a fan of his wife too, Gina Rollins.
Wow,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Great
Yeah.
actress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's excellent.
Mhm.
God, they were married from 54 to 89. That's amazing.
Wow.
That's
yeah.
you don't see that in Hollywood too much.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
So here they are. Here's Guy and Rosemary together. They're looking happy, and
Mm-hmm.
you got me, Daphne. You have me looking much more at wardrobes than I ever used to. And
You're
so,
welcome.
looking at the clothes that
You're
you
a
wear,
better
I thought
man
was-
now, aren't you, Jeff?
Yeah.
I
I know,
am.
the clothes are amazing. The clothes
They're
are
Especially
amazing.
that-
The
interesting.
Especially that
costumes-
center one. That center
yeah,
one
the
has some-
costumes. are
we got to
amazing.
talk
Well,
about that.
The one dress, the sort of like if you call it a shift or a moo or something that was yellow
Mhm.
with or orange
Mhm.
things on
The
it. You know what I'm
A
talking
couple
about?
of those, yeah. Uh-huh.
That was hers.
Yeah. Really? Yeah.
that
Well, it was
belonged- that
very
belonged to her.
60s. Yeah.
Well, the other
It's
thing
very
that I
60s.
thought was interesting was she wore the same thing more than once on
Yeah.
different days,
Uh-huh.
which I
Mhm.
thought that's.
She wore the same shoes a couple times too.
I mean,
yeah.
that's real.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, some movies they wear the
It's-
same thing the whole
Right.
time because they're on the run, but otherwise, it's,
Right.
I do that every
Right.
day. I pick it up, sniff it. If it smells okay, I wear it. 2 days in a row, who cares?
See if there's any tannis root in it.
Is there symbolism in that second picture, the one where she has the big white collar? Because there's a lot
There
to
could
talk
be.
about. There's a lot to talk about her name because her
It's-
name
it's
is
v-
Rose
yes.
Mary.
It's
Mary,
very
yeah.
And the
it's
Mary part of that
religious
name.
pilgrim type.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
a
You
nun.
could be,
Like a nun,
yeah,
yeah.
you could be
Yeah.
right, Doc. I never thought about that, but with all the Catholicism in this movie, it could be. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, that's part of why she was chosen, Rosemary. She was the
Yeah.
Mary for the end of the movie.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
With her vodka blush.
The vodka blush. That's
Vodka
right.
blush.
Vodka blush.
Yes.
Oh God, that sounds
Which
terrible.
had to be blood, right?
I do want to say one thing real quick about Cassavetes is that at the beginning of the movie, he didn't bug me that much. I was like, he was
Right.
he was just kind of a, whatever. But
A guy.
yeah, he was a guy. And well, someone that you could imagine, and he did, but he
Sure.
he was okay. But you could, I gotta say, you could see how quickly I totally bought that he would do this to Rosemary.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
yeah.
within days of them getting meeting Minnie and Roman and seeing him change and kind of becoming even more self-centered and ego.
Yeah, the minute
driven.
she said, "You stopped looking at me,"
I
Yeah.
know. That was
I
not a
started
great line.
keeping an eye on what he was doing
Yeah.
after that, and it was true. He
He-
couldn't even
yeah,
look
he
at her in the
No.
when they
There
had the baby in the room and everything.
There was
Well,
one
you know-
point where he was
Mhm.
literally like this,
Yeah.
and he was in the background, and he was like this,
Yeah.
covering his face.
Yeah, that
literally.
was a
It
great
I was
scene.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
almost like out of the room. Yeah.
He wouldn't touch, when the baby, when
Mhm.
she started feeling better and said the baby's moving, he
Right.
wouldn't touch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he pulled back. He pulled back.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a subtle performance. It really is.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
And I
it's
think- I think you see the frustration of the acting choices that the director put on him in the character as well, and that frustration
Mhm.
kind of feeds it.
Yeah.
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 I would agree. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I think right from the beginning, right from the time where they go have dinner with him, when they first move in,
Mhm.
and
Minnie and Roman. Yeah.
Roman gets them separated, and they're
Mhm.
talking, and that's when Roman starts to suck him in.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
and
he was
apparently
totally like, brown nose or schmoozing him when talking about, that performance you did in Luther, well, you did that gesture, and
Mhm.
yeah, it was just like hook, line, and sinker. He fell for
Yep.
that one.
Yeah. Well, and he and then they seal it by demonstrating their power
Hmm.
by
Yes.
making that one actor go blind that he then gets
Uh-huh.
the part, and now it's like, hey,
Mhm.
they can really do this.
Uh-huh.
Poor
Oh,
Hutch.
the ties that bind.
And then they
Um,
killed Hutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killed
Yep.
poor Hutch. Yeah.
No, Hutch, yes.
Well, and then I wrote it down somewhere. I'm not going to look it up. Just some more pictures of her. These are more the. Now that's
God, look at the bottom
is when-
one. Jeez.
That's where she would
Mhm.
meet Hutch, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
well, she's supposed to and didn't, but that she also
Right,
has that
right.
line about pain be gone or something. It's
Yes.
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
you start seeing
Mhm.
her mental capacities
Mhm.
kind of slip a
Mhm.
little bit. The gears
Mhm.
kind of loosen.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
shot in the middle where the poster image comes from,
Mhm.
and I think the top one is when she wakes up after
Yeah.
having the baby, and she's
Mhm.
trying to figure out what
Mhm.
happened.
Mhm.
And then, first guy tells her everything's fine. It's and then, within I don't know how much time it is, she's had time to hide
Yeah.
like 5 pills.
Yeah, I love that shot of all the pills stuck in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
It's dead, but yet she can hear a baby crying. Right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they come up with a
Yeah.
good excuse, but she's not falling for it. They
Yeah,
say
well,
that
as
her
soon
new
as she
neighbor
says something, to somebody and says, "Did you hear that baby?" and they say no, then
Right.
right away, then guy comes in with the excuse. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, we got to talk about Ruth Gordon.
Oh.
How'd you like to look
My
out your
Ruth.
peephole and see that?
It really is a great
Oh.
performance.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
she is
brilliant.
It's just her acting like herself.
Yeah.
She's
I'm very
amazing.
Look at you, you dirty ape! You ate all my Oreos.
Well, I think
That's it.
It's from Any Which Way You Can, or
Why-
Which way you lose? Yeah.
I got to go look at some of her older stuff because she took literally almost 20 years off and just did stage.
Oh.
And came back shortly before that. And something I read said the way she played this part re-energized her career to the point of where she's basically playing the same character in Harold and Maude and on Columbo. I mean, she plays a very similar character on that Columbo where she's
Harold and Maude, man. Oh my God.
God, I love that
Harold
movie.
and Maude is amazing.
That's hilarious.
So anyway, she was
great.
She's brilliant.
Wow.
They have that. I think I have her.
Her first movies were in 1915.
Yes.
Uncredited. Her first credited one was she was Mary Todd Lincoln and Abe Lincoln in Illinois in 1940.
Huh. And she was so smart. They both, I mean, just when you could see really what was going on, and she wasn't really this kind of, I don't know if I'd say dumb or kind of flighty, but they were definitely calculating. They were they were scary.
She also, besides winning an Oscar for this, she won an Emmy for an episode of Taxi.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Cool.
Which I need to check out.
Yeah, I need to see that.
Anyway.
I loved how she was so nosy and how she just kind of pushed her way into the apartment and how she just kept coming up with ways to keep an eye on Rosemary.
Yeah.
That was great.
Did you take a poop today? Let me see it before you flush it.
Oh my God.
Dear.
Oh, you're having a movie. I'll come help you. No, I don't want you to help me handle. Oh, well, I'll come take the coats then. No. You're not. And then when her and her friends show up that one time, they just barge right in and sit down and start knitting.
I know, that was awesome.
That was crazy. And the other woman, what was her name? Laura Louise. She sits down in the book that she was reading, which was Sammy Davis Jr.'s autobiography, by the way.
No connection there. Right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That from home. That from home, right?
The way she was eating that cake.
Oh, I know.
Brilliant.
She took her own fork and put the cake on John Cassavetes'
I didn't
plate
even
and then
notice that, but
tapped it with her fork and then turned her fork upside down and took a big hunk of cake.
She turned it so she was shoving it in her.
Yeah.
God, that was good.
She's so good.
So yeah, there she is, telling her what for. Very demonstrative.
She's just
and
hilarious.
That Laura Louise, that Patty Kelly, I think was her name. She was she was hilarious too, especially when Roman tells him to let Rosemary rock the baby.
Yeah.
He sticks her
She
tongue.
was pissed.
She does.
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah.
She's awesome. I've seen her in a lot of older films.
Yeah.
And she's hilarious. Yeah.
Those glasses were so thick, and then the one time she didn't have them on, she was walking around with her eyes. It was so good. It was so good. So
she was in another favorite movie of mine, the original Freaky Friday. Jodie Foster. She was the cleaner. She was the house cleaner. Yeah, Mrs. Schmaus. Yeah,
I'm learning a lot about you today.
Uh-oh.
It's just the tip of the iceberg, Doc.
Yeah, she was so brilliant. No, Sidney Blackmer, kind of the kindly old gentleman in the top, and then screaming
Hail Satan.
Man, that sent chills down my spine when I first saw that.
Gosh.
Me too. And if you didn't do that right, it'd be funny, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But wow.
Yeah. No, that was very powerful. It was scary. Yes.
It was all about timing too. I mean,
the
pacing of it, when they do it, at the moment that they do it.
What is it Laura Louise says to her? oh, stop with your oh God stuff or milk or no milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
get rid of you.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
We'll get. Yeah.
Yeah. Laura Louise was really mean to Rosemary.
She was.
Uh-huh.
She was looking at this baby as, hey, this baby's
Yeah.
coming. Me and Minnie are taking
Mhm.
care of it, and we're getting rid of her.
Yeah.
She's
What are you
jumping
doing?
off the balcony again.
What are you doing
Yeah.
with the milk? I'm feeding it to the worms, or whatever she said. We're throwing it away.
Throwing away, yeah.
So he's really good at this. But there's
He's
so
also
many weird-
disturbing. I was gonna say he's also really disturbing when he comes over when Hutch is visiting, and then all of a sudden he shows up, and to see if she needs anything, and to just kind of check out and see what Hutch is there, and especially the scene that you have there. It's like he's watching.
Yeah, look how closely he's watching.
Paying attention to what's going on, and then
That's what
once
I
you
was
start getting suspicious, you start seeing this stuff. So creepy there.
These are kind of like ways that they controlled her, I thought. Like in this one, he finds out that there's somebody visiting her, so he pops right in.
Would you like to come in? Well, yes, I would. Most people don't say that.
And then
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he gets rid of he gets a guy to come home apparently to steal something. I totally missed that the first time when I was trying to figure out, well, when did he get that glove? Well, it's when he says, hold on a minute, I'll be right back. And then he shows up with a carton of cigarettes. And I'm like, that's your big surprise? What the hell?
Well, and he had stage makeup on still. I mean, you can barely see it, but he had all of a sudden she was like, what are you doing here? This is a surprise. Yeah, they got on the phone.
And the little Tanis root pendant at the top. And finally the shot there with the toaster is when she eats the chicken livers, I think. It's like the chicken.
Since we're talking anagrams, is Tanis another name for Satan?
Yeah.
Satan.
That's a great shot, by the way, the one at the bottom. And that's what there's a lot of people that try to do that kind of shot, where you do in a reflection of like something normal that isn't a mirror. And they do it so blatant that it doesn't work. And look how subtle that is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But it says so much. So it's a really good shot.
Well, you see her. She opens up the chicken and then she's like picks up like the liver or whatever and starts chewing on it. And you're going, wait a minute.
What? Yeah.
And I thought I read somewhere that she was a vegetarian too before she did this movie. And she goes right ahead and eats she does that one steak that she just puts it down and flips it once. It's like it's the quick sear.
Charred, yeah.
Anyway, so that was she was watching.
So good.
So I got to mention Life's a Cook Jr.
Yes, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I totally forgot he was in this. So the top is when he's showing him the apartment, and he's hilarious when he's doing that. And they just have discovered the closet door behind the piece of furniture.
He was really good in this.
So I got a question about him. His character, is he in on it?
Yes.
Because then is he opening the door so they can gain access? Is that what he's doing here? I was trying to figure out because he was acting.
Well,
I don't know.
I think he's just selling an apartment because right now they got Terry as their.
He's just doing his job.
Vessel.
That's right.
Yeah, I think he's just part of, and then maybe they try to hook people in gradually as they learn more about it, because they found that one handwriting of the person that had lived there before that said, I can no longer associate with, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
I assumed it was going to say with your coven or your Mercado.
That's what I took it to. That she.
But then when Terry jumps out the window or is thrown out the window, then he's down there in his pajamas and his
here they come.
Jacket on. I couldn't find a good picture of that because he was always in the background, so the people in the front were in focus, like Minnie and Roman.
Because he's at. I think I saw him at the party at the end of the the room.
Yes, I saw him.
I didn't even think about that. So he was at the party. He was at the
Yeah.
party.
No,
Okay,
I think
'cause
he
I think the
didn't know
end.
about
I
it.
think the end.
Mhm.
Yeah, or one of the other ones.
Mhm.
But I don't know.
Seeing it
There's a whole lot of people, and they don't focus on
Mhm.
most of them. So,
Mhm.
although the guy with the camera's a little on the nose.
Yeah.
Cookie.
Might be just a
But
hair
He
Terry,
was great because he was playing a character that is not like what he usually plays. I felt like he was sort of mousy and sort of that suit was way too big for him somehow. But anyway,
But that's a castle. That's a castle character actor for you that's
Mhm.
brought in.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
you know, the house on Haunted Hill, right?
Mhm.
oh yeah,
I
yeah.
always get those backwards if I'm not careful. But yeah, I love him. He's so good. In the 70s,
Mhm.
he has such
Oh,
strange
so
roles.
so good.
Salem's
Mhm.
Salem's Lot, just tons of stuff. I first remember him as in Maltese Falcon.
Oh yeah.
That's where I
Yeah.
saw him first.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right.
he was mousy then too.
So these guys,
Yeah. All
Doc
good.
Isn't it
knows
great?
them. I know the top guy, Ralph Bellamy. Okay, what movie was he in that we've covered?
Wolfman.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know that.
The Wolfman.
And
Wow.
center is Maurice Evans. What movie are we going to end up covering now that Doc's here?
Oh no, it's not going to be Bewitched. That would be something else.
Oh, no. He's Dr. Zaius.
Oh, okay, yeah. And yes, no, is he Dr. Zaius? Okay,
Yeah.
Charles Grodin with his little
And that
Charles
came
Grodin.
out of the same
with his
time,
little
too.
high school mustache right there.
I know.
Planet of
Charles,
the Apes
this-
was 68 too. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. This was a big break for Charles Grodin.
Yeah. Yeah.
This actually, yeah. Without this, he wouldn't be in King Kong.
I like Charles Grodin.
Do you?
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I liked when he used to show up on the Tonight Show. He would play this surly guy that it was sort of a character he did when he would go on Johnny Carson's show, where he would just confront Johnny with everything and just act like he was mad at Johnny and just mad at the world. He was funny on there when he'd go on the
He
Tonight
played
Show.
that character in a movie, I think it was from the 90s, called So I Married an Axe Murderer. He does this thing with Stephen Wright, and it's so funny.
Well, he plays that kind of character.
Yeah.
He's perfect for that kind of, that sort of stuffed shirt kind of.
Yeah, he always
What was that? What was the movie with Robert De Niro? Midnight Run.
Yes.
Hilarious. That was just one of my favorite comedies. He was
That
so
one.
funny in that.
I'll give you that one.
Thanks.
He usually rubs me the wrong way. I usually go, oh, no. But that one, yeah.
Well, he's playing that kind of character, right?
Mhm.
But back to Ralph Bellamy, one of my favorite films, which isn't a genre film. Later on in the 80s, Trading Places.
Oh yeah.
One of the dudes.
Him and Mortimer, or was he Mortimer?
He was
Oh my
Randolph.
gosh.
He was Randolph.
He was
Yes!
Randolph. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's great.
Mhm.
He was an Oh God. I forgot about that.
The Duke brothers.
The dude.
Oh God!
It
was the
Dukes. It was the Dukes.
They were so great.
Wow, he started in
Oh,
31.
man.
Carrying
He
around
hasn't-
that big giant pipe in the smoking pipe in the Wolfman.
Hmm.
Yeah, is he like the? He's like the alternate lead, right? And he's in Ghost of Frankenstein as well.
Yeah, is he like the inspector or something? Or?
He was like one of the hunters, I think. I can't remember if he was an
That's-
inspector or not.
He was a Colonel Munford.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, there was two. Let's see. One was on Bewitched. One was on I Dream of
Yes,
Jeannie.
yes.
Which was the character
Yeah.
on I Dream of Jeannie?
It was a
The Maurice.
Well, the-
friend of Rosemary
the one in-
who.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, she was on I Dream of Jeannie. Yes,
I
she
Dream of
was
Jeannie.
Roger or the Colonel's wife, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Emmeline Henry, I think.
Mhm.
That's who that is.
Yeah, and he was Maurice was Jeannie's father, right?
Oh well, Samantha's father.
Samantha's father. Yeah,
In
sorry, I
Bewitched.
got the wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah, Bewitched. Sorry, thank you. You
yeah.
got me.
But he was a warlock. Yeah, he was a
Yes.
warlock, and then here he's a witch hunter.
He's
Yeah.
a witch hunter. Yeah.
And then Hope Summers was the neighbor Clara on Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
I thought she looked familiar. Yeah.
Aunt
Wasn't her name
Bee's
Clara?
nemesis.
Clara.
Yeah, Aunt Bee's nemesis.
And he's nemesis. A nemesis. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Well, they were always fighting. They were always going against each other in the baking.
Yeah, in the
contest.
baking contest.
Garden.
The jam
you know,
contests and
bake.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, now we know her background, why she won so many pie contests.
Yeah. Yes. And then the other guy that I recognize is Phil Leeds, who played that Dr. Shand.
Yeah.
But I can't really tell you who I recognized him from.
He kind of talks like this.
It's a very distinctive face with a large nose and
Looks like
Big
a
ears.
mouse.
Big ears.
big ears. I know he's been in stuff that I've seen, but he's one of those guys that's got so many credits that he's got 118. So yeah, some great people in here. So we mentioned, we talked about
cameos. Cameos. Did we talk about cameos?
Is that what we were talking about?
We talked about that.
Oh,
Cameo by the devil.
Cameo by the
God.
devil.
it's really hard to tell on that top picture, but it's the
the claws. The claws.
And yeah, the claws and the.
They did a
They
good
had
job
painted
making it seem like he looked a little bit like Guy, and then he didn't look like Guy. I thought that was interesting, and I didn't know which part grosses me out more, that she was raped by Satan or that Guy was like, oh well, don't want to miss baby night. You know, it was just like,
He was
what?
so pervy about it.
Oh, I know.
So
Yeah, then
pervy.
she finds the scratches and he comes in. Oh, it's okay. I already clipped my fingernails. I'm like,
Scumbag.
He's got everything covered, doesn't he?
Total
well, it was great because she didn't need all of the chocolate mouse. You know?
Yeah,
Mouse.
the mouse.
So, thinking of it,
Yes.
eyes.
That's a haunting scene. That whole scene is so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
It
she's
is,
got that
it
weird
is.
dream going on at the same time where people are just like pointing at
Yeah.
stuff. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And she's floating on the bed.
Well, did you guys get that the
Yeah.
people on the boat were supposed to be JFK and Jackie
oh,
Onassis?
I didn't get that.
So they had rough lookalikes that really.
Mm.
I mean,
I had
after-
read that, but I wouldn't have put that together.
Yeah, I wouldn't have
on my
guessed that
own.
either.
I didn't. No.
And
Well, and I
isn't
thought that-
Hutch was
Oh,
out
sorry,
there
Jeff.
like kind of trying to warn her or show her the directions or storm coming or something, you know.
And one character turns around and changes into him. So, you know, he looks like one thing, and then when he turns back around, he looks like Hutch.
Mm.
And he starts going.
Right.
But it's so disorienting. They do that a couple times, and it really supports that idea I was talking about earlier about whether she's mentally there.
Right.
And you're there with her the entire time, so you don't know. And
Right.
you're
It's
with
just
her.
ambiguous enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Because it could be a weird dream sequence, by
Hallucination
having
or
the
something.
drugs. You know, the drugs. It could have just been a weird dream. And I
Again, putting
remember-
us in her position.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
realizing. But of
Well,
course, she sells it when she goes, "It's not a dream. This is really
Yeah.
happening."
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
That's
she
really
says that
happening.
line. She says those lines so good. No one could
that's
say
so
them
powerful.
as
Yeah.
good as that. Yeah. And I remember being struck even the first time when I saw this with how you don't see. Well, I mean, there is some nudity, and that was kind of a little bit surprising. But the rape scene itself was kind of graphic, and just like in the movements, like you could tell that they were having sex.
Mhm.
And then the Pope shows up. It was just like so strange and
For
kind
the
of
time, it was
weird.
a little more graphic than you would
Yeah.
think. You know?
And so it was pretty crazy, that scene.
Mhm.
Well, the nude scenes were
Body double. Right?
body doubles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
This is the only the closest thing to a nude scene she did was
Mm.
when they were showing her back scratches.
Mm.
So it's interesting to me. So you see the devil's eyes there in that center picture.
Mhm.
In the book, well, in the movie, right? So the movie ends with her going, "What did you do to his eyes?" Or "What's wrong with his eyes?" or something like that. Roman says he has his father's eyes.
Mhm.
And
She looks at him. She looks at.
Does she say Guy doesn't have?
Yeah, she
those
said
are
Guy
Guy's
doesn't
eyes?
have those eyes.
And then I think it's Laura Louise says something about, and Minnie, one of them says, "Look at his hands. Oh, and his feet too."
Mhm.
But you don't see any of
Any
this
of
stuff.
that.
You don't see
No.
his eyes. You don't see his hands. You don't see his feet. In the book, they describe him.
Wasn't it hairy? Like it's a hairy.
Claws on his hands
Claws on
and
his
feet,
hands.
and they have mittens over him so he doesn't hurt
Mhm.
himself. And then the eyes are all yellow golden except for
So they're
vertical
tiger
black
eyes.
slits for pupils.
Mhm.
So it's in the movie they've left it more open to. I'm trying to think, because I heard Polanski say at one point that all of this stuff could be real, could be happening, however, until when she sees his eyes. Up until then,
Mhm.
you can kind of make an argument. He says she has. He's such a sensitive guy too. Guy says she has the prepartum crazies.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow, you were really out there, Rose. Ro.
Bro.
She's just going.
It's like a major case of gaslighting. That wasn't the devil.
Yes.
You're crazy.
But that's the scene when when they turn to Ruth and them, Guy's in the background, like in the doorway, and he's like covering his eyes the entire time.
Yes.
And that
But then he still says things like at the end, they promised me you wouldn't get hurt. You didn't get hurt.
Oh, when he gets over to, and she spits in his face. That was perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was great.
Oh God, he's so bad.
He just gets up and walks away.
Yeah.
Well, between the Dr. Saperstein, Ralph Bellamy, and Roman continually telling them, "Oh, it's just natural. It's perfectly natural. Everything's perfectly natural. Don't worry about it. Don't read books. Don't talk to your friends."
Yeah.
And then finally, this is, these are two different pictures, but you can see it in the top one because it's brightened a little bit. I think it was
the upside down cross is hanging down.
The upside down cross is hanging, and it's a black cradle.
High
cozy black.
Too. Yeah.
I thought she was going to go in there and rip
Bassinet.
the nightgown off, and it'll be like a Matrix outfit, and she'd start jumping around, stabbing everything. That's what I was hoping.
That'll be the next remake that they do. Not the one that they did, but the next one.
But that one,
slow motion actions.
They couldn't make this movie now. I mean, they didn't. They tried.
I love when Laura Louise was just like so not maternal. They are not like paternal at all. Just
You're rocking him too hard. Oh my gosh. She was so upset with her being there. It was so hilarious.
I know.
I love this top shot here though, because she's got the side eye going there. I don't know if you can.
Almost a stank eye, right?
Yeah.
I like when she drops a knife and it goes into the floor.
The upside down cross hanging from.
And then Minnie picks it up and tries to kill
I think that was ad-libbed. That was not. Yeah, they said. I thought that. Seems to be like Mia Farrow said that it stuck by. She was. I can't even remember if she wasn't supposed to drop it, but but anyway, she dropped it, and I think it was a surprise that it stuck in the floor. And so Ruth Gordon comes up and does that little thing where
rubs
she
on the floor.
Rubs on the.
That was perfect. That was perfect.
Pure Minnie, right? That's exactly what Minnie did.
Yeah.
She did with the carpet
exactly
earlier.
Right. Another thing I love about that scene is just how she so carefully walks in there, and then when she gets to the room, everybody's in there, and she just walks in to the room, Rosemary, and then people slowly start recognizing her, and they just kind of watch her and kind of try to see how she reacts. And I just thought that was a really, I don't know. They could have gone like with people attacking her or her attacking them, but it was very just kind of this quiet, what's going to happen scene. And Roman was already on top of it, hoping that he could get her to care for the baby. You know,
she's their version of the Virgin Mary.
Of Mary.
So they
yeah.
they kind of revere her at this moment,
right?
Except for
Hail Mary, except for Laura. Yeah, Laura Louise.
Well, you mentioned cameos, Doc. Supposedly, we've got two more we got to mention. First one being supposedly Sharon Tate was in one of the party scenes, and I thought I saw her when they had her friends over, but it's sort of like it's one of those. It's never nobody's ever been able to confirm it. So
she was up for the role, but
and Mia Farrow said they were great friends, and it was really the Manson killing took place like 14 months after the release of this film.
I think I read that when she got divorce papers from Sinatra, like she and it actually spent a lot of time with Polanski and Tate, just kind of convalescing, I guess, or just kind of dealing with that. Yeah.
Then Castle makes his little Hitchcock.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's so good too, because you see Bellamy first, right? You see the back of Bellamy's head, and then he walks away and Castle walks up. But there is a third cameo.
Yes.
It's a vocal cameo.
Do you guys,
yes.
It's Tony Curtis. I did not recognize it. Tony Curtis is the actor who gets blinded on the phone. It's just his voice.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And they did it to throw Mia off because she wouldn't know who this person was, and she was and you can see it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you.
I didn't recognize
Curtis's connection to this movie.
Well, speaking of which, The Boston Strangler came out in 1968 also. So which starred Curtis. But I didn't recognize it. When they had that conversation, I kept saying, who is that? And then I read that he was the guy that did it. And then when I listened to it, it's obvious.
When you know.
Once you know it.
Yeah.
I have to watch it again.
There was something. There was that phone call, and then the fake phone call where she's in the booth waiting for Hill to call her back, and she's pretending to be on the phone.
Yeah,
I just think that was incredible. That was a great scene in the way. I don't know.
It was.
Yeah.
Now there isn't too much gore in this movie, except for the death of what's her name
Terry.
in the beginning, and and that really kind of sets this weird tone for the rest of the movie, even though you don't necessarily get any other deaths. And you still feel the power of that all the way through, mostly because of the necklace. But
then I swear I could see her eye popping. I don't know if you really could, but in my mind I see Terry's eye like sticking out.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, she bounced off the Volkswagen too. You didn't see it, but the Volkswagen had all the blood.
Yeah,
on
it was all. Yeah. Well, they had this great little scene down there, and apparently, when she says, "I thought you looked like so and so," that's who that person really was.
Yeah, that was her not stage name, her birth name.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I forget what it was.
Just cute.
That was a good scene, though.
Down in the basement,
and it showed they both were like nervous and they didn't like to be down there alone, and it really set some tone for the audience at that point.
I would have thought that she would have said something when Minnie gives Rosemary the pendant that Rosemary saw on Terry, that she would have said something. But she didn't. She just took it politely.
That's kind of how I took it, is that she was being polite,
Yeah. All righty. What else we want to say? This is, I'm telling you, I looked up best movies of all time, top 10 best movies of all time. There's a few that it's not in the list, but most of them it's in the list, and a lot of times it's in the top tier.
To me, this is right up there with this is a major horror film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's very well done, very well written, directed. Cinematography is very good. Production design is amazing. And it's truly, I think this was the beginning of what they call the psychological horror film. I know Psycho came before, but this, without showing any monsters, without showing any blood, gore, or anything like that, keeps you on the edge of your seat through the whole movie, because the way it's done, you become Mia Farrow's character. And so you really care about what happens to her, and you care about how is she going to get out of this? How is she going to? So it's just there's a reason why it's so high on everybody's list of favorite horror films. It's just a work of art to me. It's very well done, and it's one I also keep going back to.
Sorry to interrupt you, Chad.
Sorry, Daphne. No, you didn't.
Oh, I was just, Jock had said, it definitely had a 70s ending. And every time I know Rosemary's Baby came out in the 60s, but I feel like, you're right, Doc, it does foreshadow a lot of stuff. I feel like it was just a little, like a little edgy, just a little out there, just a little bit ahead of its time and some stuff. I don't know if that's true, but I always kind of felt like it was a little it's a little early, like it was
Satanic Raven, a mainstream movie,
right? And I think that added to the kind of unease about it, is because it's just kind of like, wow, this is just the stuff you're not used to seeing, but it's in a totally normal situation. Husband and wife get an apartment, have babies, you have crazy neighbors. But yet then there's this stuff going on.
It wasn't happening. Yeah. Planet of the Apes did the same thing. Bonnie and Clyde did it. They all started right about the time. And then they, it became the norm in the 70s. Sorry. Became the norm in the 70s, but in here it was just a couple things.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the other thing is moving the horror. Well, first we had, lots of like haunted house type. There's always huge castles, haunted houses and stuff in a lot of the horror movies we did. A lot of the 50s sci-fi stuff was not like that. Like Invasion of the Body Snatchers is in a small town. Even Psycho's in a motel. Everybody stays
isolated,
in a motel,
right? Isolated.
But now you're in the middle of this big city. It's urban horror, kind of. So they were kind of moving. That was a change too, I think.
Yeah. I mean, even the locations have some historic significance too. The shot that we were talking about where was it Terry dies? Is that the lady jumps out? Jerry. That's only feet away from where John Lennon was shot and killed.
Well, it was the exterior for the apartment building was the Dakota, right?
So
and then meet me in front of the Time Life building.
That was in front of the Radio City Music Hall.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of that there.
So that was the other thing. Ira Levin said that he felt like this was so far out there that in order for people to believe the out there stuff, he had to anchor it with everyday things that people at the time, the Pope being in Yankee Stadium would have been fresh in everybody's mind, right? So
do we want to talk about the significance of the staying in 1966 when it's 1968? Because the baby was due what month, Chad? June.
1966.
Yeah.
666.
Well, also in the book, the due date was June 25th to be 6 months from Christmas. Now in here they said it was due June 28th, but I can't remember what day it was actually. If they talked about what day it was actually.
I feel like it came early.
Yeah, I think it was. Anyway,
Little Devil.
666.
Little Devil.
Little Devil came early.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Great movie.
Yay!
We are.
Well, we did a number on this one, didn't we?
Waxing on.
That was fun.
This reminds me of when we did Frankenstein. Frankenstein was kind of like this too. So, well, we do have a couple of feedbacks. Should we read them?
Fine.
What do you think, new guy?
I don't know. It's true to show you running along.
Okay, we're gonna do it. I'll take the first
See,
one.
I knew if we left it to Jeff, we'd end up doing it. I was hoping y'all would say no. I was trying to do all kinds of little body signals.
I couldn't tell.
Didn't happen.
I don't take. I don't read body language at all, except for that.
Universal language.
So here's one for from Jerry Chandler, episode 149, X the Unknown.
Oh, see you tomorrow.
I'll do it. So Jerry Chandler, Jeff, Quartermass 2 is the one I think you're remembering, which is what we said, right? I said I always got confused, X the Unknown and the Creeping Unknown, based on the title. It wasn't a blob-like threat in most of the film. It was initially people acting weird, but toward the end, it's revealed to be a giant blobby alien in a giant dome-like structure controlling the villagers. If Daphne was surprised this was a Hammer film because it was black and white, wait until she sees a Hammer film that isn't even horror. You probably have. Hammer became known, especially outside the UK, for its big horror boom period, but the studio first started in the 30s and made films of every genre. They did comedy, war films, murder mysteries, detective movies, spy thrillers, dramas, etc. If you all can find it, I would recommend Four-Sided Triangle, an early sci-fi from Hammer that was a precursor to the classic horror most of us think of when we hear the studio's name. I feel like he's told us about this before. Maybe he just posted it on his social media.
I think I said I know that Hammer made black and white films. I just tend to think of the colored 70s ones.
Right, with the Hammer blood.
Yeah. And of course, Curse of Frankenstein was so
first,
because it was in color, was a big deal.
Right.
On X the Unknown, he says, I love this film and just considered another Quatermass film under another name. And hell, it was supposed, as you point out, to be one up until Nigel Neal said they couldn't use Bernard Quatermass for the project.
Quatermass.
So basically, I said it.
You did.
Are you listening, Alistair? Are you listening? Couldn't use Bernard Quatermass for the project, so it basically is exactly that. I saw this film and all three of the Quatermass films when I was pretty young, and maybe too young to have seen Quatermass in the pits at that time. They all got airplay on the local UHFs on Saturday afternoon as part of the sci-fi horror blocks in the pre-cable TV days. They just didn't use any of the actual names, so it took me a while to find them again once home video started growing. That's when I saw Quatermass in the pit. It was like 5 million miles to Earth or something. Whatever it was. I just love this movie. Great pace, largely solid writing overall. Lots of great science fiction mumbo jumbo that sounds convincing while being utter rubbish for anything outside the plot device, and the kind of somewhat relatable heroes who feel more like regular people that Hammer seemed good at portraying. Plus, honestly, the FX are still pretty cool and fun looking. And I love the creature, better than the blob in my book, even if they might be cosmic kissing cousins. And please, Leo McKern was best known to millions as Imperious in the movie Lady Hawk. That's not remotely true, but it is in my world, where Lady Hawk was a much bigger box office hit than it actually was. I made the mistake of saying Leo McKern is probably recognized by most people as Rumpole of the Bailey. Off-topic trivia based on one of the pictures you used that's actually more significant to showing his popularity as an actor throughout his career than you realize. In The Prisoner, there was a new number 2 in almost every episode. Leo McKern was one of only 2 actors to play number 2 more than once, and he played it the most with 3 total episodes under his belt.
Good.
Excellent. Thanks, Jerry. Like we said,
Jerry, thanks.
Jerry's back on a more normal work schedule and not doing training and stuff, so he's got more time to catch up on the podcast. I appreciate it. I really do. And then, Even the Wind is Afraid, episode 148 from Gregory Crosby. Another excellent episode and a very intriguing film, which I was unaware of until now. One of the things I appreciate about the classic era is the many less well-known international films you've been covering of late. I was bemused by your curiosity about the history of the Gothic. I would like to be of assistance, as I know far too much than is likely good or necessary about the Gothic and the many twists and turns of its meaning and influence. And it would be very happy and honored to tell you all about it someday. when I'm asked to be a guest on the podcast.
What? You know what? You don't get anything now?
Of course, as you know, poets like vampires cannot join a podcast unless they are invited.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
I am. Great.
I want more.
Yeah,
I feel ripped off.
yeah. You got all excited about
teased.
learning.
Yeah, I was
teased.
going, oh my God, we're going to hear something about the history of the Gothic.
Yeah, because you were the one that brought it up that got the whole discussion going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is Gothic to you guys? So anyway,
Mhm.
that's it for today.
Oh,
As
that's
far
so
as
cool.
the feedback, everybody please leave feedback, comments on Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel, in the Gruesome Magazine DOH or HNR and DOH Facebook group, or you can send them to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com.
We're all
Please,
tired
even
now.
if you listen
Nobody
to this,
trust each other anymore.
even if you listen to this on audio podcast apps, please go to the Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel and subscribe. We would really appreciate it. And we'll keep picking great movies like this. Also, Patreon, you can get the Decades of Horrors if you're a Patreon member. And I don't remember if that starts at the first level or
First
what.
level.
First level, which is what, $2 a month?
Yeah.
$5,
Yeah.
two or $5, or think about it.
Technically anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to have to
So
donate higher than that, because the third level
we
was
send out
all
the
new
podcast,
pictures of Jeff, and we ran out of those immediately. So
well, there's the Chad's OnlyFans page too.
yeah, I'm right on
So-
top of that one too. You got to hustle these days to make money.
Yeah.
Thong.
Well, Doc is working up a bunch of stuff for this, being the 10th anniversary of Gruesome, or of Horror News Radio and Gruesome Magazine.
Decades of Horror. Yeah.
Coming up with some good Patreon promotions. But at the very least, you get all the DOH episodes emailed a link to you the day after the podcast, and they usually don't go public for like 12 to 14 days. So, yeah, you can, if you got to hear it now, we'll give it to you.
I want to know who wants to hear a blooper reel.
I quit keeping those.
Man,
I got
some
a
of
really
the best
old
stuff.
one.
All the good stuff we do before the podcast.
We should start doing live ones, I guess.
Good.
So that's it for this episode. But every 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on a specific film released between 1920 and 1969. Next one is one chosen by me, and it's Greg. You said you like these less well-known international films. We're doing The White Reindeer, a Finnish film from 1952.
Finish.
Oh, wow.
And it's on YouTube. It's also on archive.org. If you want to check
Neither
it
of
out.
which probably have subtitles.
They do. Actually,
Have you ever watched YouTube subtitles? Think if you're talking about something deadly serious on there, and YouTube subtitles are going, he farted. Did you hear him fart? He's dead. I know he's dead, but he farted.
I think these are actual translations, but I think it's the one, I can't remember if it's the one on YouTube or archive.org. It actually has Spanish and English simultaneously.
There's no room for the
that's
movie,
fun.
actually, but
But they're not on top of each other. You can read them both. Anyway, think of it as more like a silent film.
I hate it already.
Now, Doc,
Silent.
now that we're here, episode 150, I know we're just like longer in hell, but we've always told this story that me and Chad came to you or and said, you should be doing, why aren't you doing a Decades of Horror of the 60s? And you said, well, we don't have time. So I talked to Chad, and then we come back and go, how about if we do the Decades of Horror of the 60s? We'll try to do all the work. And you said, go for it.
I did.
And then when we came back, after we talked about it, we just decided to do the 60s and before.
Which was a great decision. Thank you.
Well,
you guys did a good job with that.
our actual discussion talked about it was easier to get forgiveness and permission. But nobody said anything. So what I'm wondering, what I wanted to ask you that I've never asked you is when we asked you about doing that and you said go for it, what did you really think the odds were of that happening?
Oh, I thought they were very. I knew you were going to do it. I knew you
really?
were very passionate about it. Yep. And we needed it, so I was happy. I was happy because I was maxed out at that time.
Yeah.
No room for me to do much anything else.
I don't know what led me to do that. The first episode I was ever on was like, I think it was like October 2016, and by January we're starting our own podcast. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, and I love
another podcast.
I really respect and love the choices you're making because you'll do, popular ones like this, well-known ones, classic ones, and then you'll dive in and do these obscure ones that some of them I've never even heard of, like this. Was it the white
reindeer?
The white reindeer being one of them.
I went on.
I just love it. I love it.
I went on a search for that a long time ago because
I feel like you've mentioned it before, Jeff. That you wanted to.
Well, I found two different lists of best horror movie of each year for like the last 100 years. One was, I think, Bloody Disgusting, and I don't remember what the other one was. And one of them listed White Reindeer for 1952. And at that time, I started looking for it, and I couldn't find it anywhere. But now it's starting to turn up. It's actually listed on Shudder on Amazon in the UK.
Oh.
Not here, but in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a Blu-ray from one of the English companies. I forget. Maybe Eureka. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Vacuum.
So
I have an email here too. It says, and this is from Doc, and I think he meant to send it to somebody else, but it says, I give these idiots 10 episodes at the most. They'll never go 150. There's no way. There's no effing way. Your friend, Rotten Cod.
It was tough when we first got started doing the images. It was like, anyway.
It's
love
been
you
great.
guys.
Happy
Whitney was with
150th.
us. Joseph Perry was with us. Aaron Miskell was one of the founding members. So it's been fun all the way around.
And I think I'll be sticking around for a little bit. So
I hope so.
I'm excited about that. I appreciate you inviting me on, and I thank you so much. This is fun.
It is. It is. We have fun around here. Whatever Finian's.
Don't worry, we won't be doing 2 hours again, Doc.
Sure.
That's a bold-faced lie.
No, we don't.
I'm pretty sure I've fallen asleep on a couple of with my eyes.
Well, that has happened, but it's not based on how long the movie is or how long our episode is. All right, I'm sorry, guys. Thanks a lot, Doc. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah,
lots of great input from everybody.
Yes,
I miss Whitney. But
yes, if you're listening, we miss you.
This was fun.
Bye.
Love
Whitney.
Yeah. Good luck on everything.
All right.
Absolutely.
Catch us again here in 2 weeks for another great horror movie of the classic eras. Only decades of horror can do it. Say good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Gruesome Magazine.